Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, dear devotees. Thank you so much for joining.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Hare Krishna. So let's start with the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminithi Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Dhanvat Pranam. Thank you all so much for joining. So we are on the 20th chapter of the Antya Lila of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we'll continue from verse 116 onwards. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna. So, this particular section, this is the last section of the last chapter of Antya Lila. That means the last chapter of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami is giving a summary of all the various chapters. So, whether in one verse or 2-3 verses, he's giving a summary of all the different chapters. So, let's read from 116 onwards. Uma Devi Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. May I start, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, please start.
Navame Gopinata Pattanayaka Mochana Trijagatera Loka Prabhura Paila Darshana. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In the 9th chapter is a description of how Gopinatha Pattanayaka was delivered and how the people of the 3 worlds were able to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 117. Dashame Kahilun Bhakta Datta Aswadana Raghava Panditera Tahan Jalira Sajana. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In the 10th chapter, I have described how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tasted the food given by his devotees, and I have also described the assortment of prasadam in the bags of Raghava Pandita. Text 118. Tara Madhye Govindera Kaila Parikshana Tara Madhye Parimunda Retreya Varnana. Translation by Stephen K. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Also in that chapter is a description of how the Lord examined Govinda and how he danced in the temple. Text 119. Ekadashe Haridasa Takurera Niryana Bhakta Vatsalya Yahan Kaila Gaura Bhagavan. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The 11th chapter describes the disappearance of Haridas Thakura and how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, showed his affection for his devotees. Text 120. Dvadashe Jagada Nandera ತೈಲ ಭಂಜನ ನಿತ್ಯಾನಂದ ಕೈಲ ಶಿವಾನಂದೇರ ತಡನ. Translation by Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In the 12th chapter are descriptions of how Jagadananda Pandita broke a pot of oil and how Lord Nityananda chastised Shivananda Sena. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Krishna, thank you so much, Mataji. So, these verses are talking about chapters 9 to 12. So, in the ninth chapter, that chapter is entitled "The Deliverance of Gopinath Patnaik." So, in that chapter, Gopinath Patnaik, who's the son of Bhavanand Rai, he was engaged in the service of the government, but he had misappropriated some funds from the treasury. So, when we are reading these verses, we can try to recall the past times that we had read. And because he had misappropriated some funds, so therefore the Bada Jana, the eldest son of King Maharaj Pratap Rudra, he had ordered that he be punished to death. And thus Gopinath Patnaik was raised on the Changa to be killed. But by the mercy of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was delivered. So we remember how, the devotees were very anxious that he's a son of Bhavanand Rai, he's a devotee, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very strict. He was not going to use his influence and get him out of it. But he was saying that even though he's a devotee, he should not have done anything wrong. But the devotees were very merciful. So they kept coming to Lord Chaitanya again and again. And then we read how finally, by the mercy of the devotees, he was saved. He was not punished with death. And this is all by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And moreover, he was even promoted to a higher post. So ultimately, everything worked out well. But it was a time of great anxiety for all the devotees because they were feeling very, very sad for him. And actually, when we were reading this section, we read how when the devotees were telling Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again and again that you please do something, please get him out of it. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not. He didn't want to get into any of these worldly affairs, and he was saying that I'll go to Alalnath if you all keep pressurizing me. There are too many disturbances here. But then finally, Kashi Mishra and other devotees, they gather and they they finally are able to speak to the king, and the king understands that what his son was doing was actually wrong, and finally he is able to he's saved. Finally, he is saved. So that was the ninth chapter. Then in the about Gopinath Patnaik. Then in the 10th chapter, we hear that how Mahaprabhu accepted prasadam from his devotees. So Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur has given the summary of all the chapters in his Amrit Pravashya Bhashya. And for this chapter, he says that before the Rath Yatra ceremony, every year, like this was the custom every year, no, that how all the devotees from Bengal would come to Jagannath Puri. And Raghav Pandit had brought with him various kinds of food for the pleasure of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The food had been cooked by his sister Damyanti, and she had packed them in bags called jhalis. And the stock of food was generally known as Raghavira Jali because it meant that these are the bags of Raghav Pandit. And Makar Dhwaj Kara, an inhabitant of Panihatti, who accompanied Raghav Pandit, was the secretary in charge of accounting for the Raghavira Jali. So it was not like one or two bags or a few bags, 10 or 20 bags. No, there were many, many bags. And this chapter gives a very detailed description of the different items that Damayanti ji would make, and she would pack them very nicely for the pleasure of Lord Chaitanya. So all these different food items were packed in jhalis, and these were known as Raghavira Jhali. So then the devotees came, and the day when all the devotees arrived at Jagannath Puri, at that time Lord Govinda, who's the Utsav Vigraha, was enjoying the pastimes in the waters of Narendra Sarovar. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also there, and he also enjoyed the ceremony in the water with his devotees. And then, like as was the custom every year, the devotees would come, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met them with a lot of love, with a lot of affection. He embraced all the devotees. And then they would all do the Gundicha Marjan. They would clean the Gundicha temple and they would chant the famous verse Jagamohana Parimundaya Mundayao. After then, this way the devotees met, they did the cleaning of the Gundicha temple. Then they all had a lot of wonderful kirtan there. Then, after that, the Lord distributed prasadam to all the devotees and also took some himself. Then he lay down at the door of the Gambhira to take rest. Okay. So this chapter, 10th chapter, also has a very beautiful description of the Lord's pastimes with Govinda. So that's what verse 118 of this 20th chapter says, right? That it is there is a description of how the Lord examined Govinda and then how he danced in the temple. So do you all remember how he examined Govinda? It was a very, very interesting pastime. Does anyone remember? Would someone like to narrate that pastime? It was something about the Lord sleeping.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Pranams Mataji.
Na Prabhu, Hare
Mataji,
Krishna.
once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taking rest in the door itself.
Wow.
So
Yes.
at that time, Lord said, "Yo, you have to come. Like, as you feel, you have to come across my." And she is told Govinda.
Mm,
So by hook or crook, he had taken some room to get into his room, and he has served. And then once
mm,
again, he had to go out. That's the time also. So Prabhuji is laying on the uh, door itself. Then,
mm,
oh, please give me room to. I want to go out. Then Prabhuji, in which way you have came in, you go in that way only. So Prabhuji has told that. Am I right,
mm.
Mataji?
Yes, yes, Prabhu. Very nice. Very nice. Thank you. So, yeah, so like Prabhu said, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like we read, na, that he would he had kirtan, then prasad, and then it was his usual custom to lay down on his left side and take rest. But this day, he lay down on the doorway itself, like Prabhu said. So now it was Govinda's his seva every day that he would massage uh, the Lord's lotus feet as the Lord was resting. But he could not go inside. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not going to move. But then because it was service, so Govinda put a cloth on the Lord and he crosses and enters and he does the seva. So somehow or other, he was a personal servant. So he crossed over the Lord's body and massaged his feet. But the next part was that when Lord Chaitanya would take rest, at that time Govinda would have his prasadam. But for his own, for something that he needed, he at that time he did not cross Lord Chaitanya. So the Lord Chaitanya asked him that, why the way you entered, you could have gone out the same way. But he did not, he did not accept prasadam that day. So he says, for your service, I crossed you. That is okay. But for accepting prasad, that is something I needed. So that for that, I was not going to cross you, my Lord. So from the character of Govinda, it is to be learned that we may sometimes commit offenses. Sometimes we may do things which generally we would not do. But if it is required for the service of the Lord, then it is okay. Some things are fine, but not for sense gratification. So even though accepting prasadam was not sense gratification, but Govinda thought that this is something I need. My body needs prasadam. So for that, I'm not going to cross over the Lord. So this is something very great, something very wonderful we learn about the character of Govinda here. And then, the description of all the wonderful dance that the Lord does, that is also given in this chapter. And also that Govinda induced the Lord to eat all the food delivered by the devotees of Bengal for his service. He would store them very nicely and he would keep giving the Lord that prasadam because the devotees had brought everything with so much love. So Govinda would ensure that, the Lord takes all the prasadam. And all the Vaishnavas would invite Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to their homes. And the Lord accepted the invitation of Chaitanya Das, the son of Shivananda Sen. And there he ate rice and yogurt. So this is the chapter, chapter number 10. Then 11th chapter is a very, very important, very glorious chapter, and it's about the passing away of Haridas Thakur. So in this chapter, it is described how Haridas Thakur was actually Brahmaji himself. So he gave up his body with the consent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So if we remember that he had a very difficult vow of chanting, almost 192 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra. And even in his old age, he was still chanting. And even though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was telling him that now you take rest, your body is a little frail, you're unwell, you take rest. But Haridas Thakur kept on chanting. And then in the end, his body became very, very weak. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes and Haridas Thakur knows that Lord Chaitanya was going to end his pastime soon, and he did not want to be around at that time. So he asks for the Lord's permission that now, please, you let me leave my body. So he leaves his body with the consent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Lord personally performed the funeral ceremony, and he carried the body of Srila Haridas Thakur to the sea. He personally entombed the body. That means he made a samadhi for Srila Haridas Thakur. He covered it with sand, erected a platform on the side. And then, after taking a bath in the sea, he personally went from shop to shop. He begged prasadam of Jagannath and from shopkeepers, and he distributed prasadam to all the devotees who were assembled there. So, it's a very beautiful chapter because it shows how much affection Lord Chaitanya has towards his devotee, the Supreme Lord, how much affection he has for his devotees. And this pastime it's very it's a difficult pastime to read also because Srila Haridas Thakur, whenever we hear of these pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in Puri and pastimes with Lord Nityananda, Haridas Thakur is always there, and we have read how much difficulty and how much of austerity he would undertake for chanting, for preaching, and he was such an integral part of all the group of devotees with Lord Chaitanya. So reading about this is, yes, it is difficult in a way, but it is also very glorious because not only, we see that his glories are being sung, but also we see how loving the Lord is with his devotees. So that was chapter 11, and where the Lord shows his affection for his devotees. And the 12th chapter is a description of how Jagadananda Pandit broke a pot of oil and how Lord Nityananda chastised Shivananda Sen. So in this chapter, there is a discussion of the transformations of ecstatic love that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited day and night, and then how the devotees from Bengal again journey to Jagannath Puri to to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as usual, every time when the devotees from Bengal were coming to Puri, Shivananda Sen, he was the leader and he would make all the various arrangements. And he was traveling with his wife and children. But the problem that happened is that the arrangements were delayed en route, and this, because of this, Lord Nityananda did not have a suitable place to live, to reside. So he became somewhat disturbed. Now, this anger and this chastisement is all done in a loving manner. It is not something serious or negative, but it is all very positive and lovingly done. But Nityanand Prabhu gets a little angry, and he gets angry with Shivananda Sen, who was actually in charge of all the affairs of the party. And in loving anger, Nityanand Prabhu kicked him. So with this, Shivananda Sen, he felt highly favored to have been kicked by Nityananda Prabhu. Okay, because this is the correct way in which one should take chastisement from seniors. And here, Shivananda Sen is telling us and showing us the correct way of dealing with these things. It's not like, in the materialistic circles that when someone is chastised or even small little things are spoken, people take big offense. But that's not how it is with devotees. And Shivananda Sen is showing us that he actually took that as a big favor, because the Lord considered him so intimate that he could do that. So he takes that as a show of mercy, as a big favor. But his nephew, Shrikant Sen, he becomes very upset. And so he left their company. Okay. He met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri before the rest of the party arrived. So, he did not like that, but then obviously he is pacified later on. Also in this chapter, a devotee named Parameshwar Das Modaka, he also went with his family to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri. And the devotees often invited Lord Chaitanya to eat with them, have prasad. When the Lord bade them all farewell, he talked very pleasingly with them. So the devotees would come, they would have this wonderful time in the association of Lord Chaitanya, but then they would be very sad when they had to leave and go back to Bengal. But Lord Chaitanya was very personal. In this chapter, we read that how he was very personal, how with every devotee he was having personal interactions as he was bidding them farewell. And he talked very pleasingly with them. And the year before, Jagadanand Pandit had been sent to Sachi Mata with prasadam and cloth. Lord Chaitanya had sent him. And this year he returned to Puri with a big pot of floral scented sandalwood oil, and he wanted to massage the Lord's head with that. But Lord Chaitanya said that I am a sannyasi. If I am seen with fragrance around me, then everyone will misunderstand me and criticize me. That will not be taken very well. So the Lord did not accept that oil. And then we read that Jagadanand Pandit, he becomes a little angry and he breaks that pot in front of him and he began to fast. Then the Lord tried to pacify him and asked Jagadanand Pandit to cook for him. So then Jagadanand Pandit became very pleased with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and because Mahaprabhu accepted his cooking, so then he broke his fast. So when we were reading this section, we were discussing that how, there is a parallel between the Krishna Lila and Lord Chaitanya's Lila, and many of the Nitya associates of Lord Krishna are there in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes also. So we had discussed who is Jagadanand Pandit. So do you all remember who is Jagadanand Pandit?
Satyabhama.
Satyabhama.
Mataji.
Yes, yes. So Satyabhama was known for her, slightly, she would get angry at times, right? So Jagdanand Pandit also, similar character we are seeing that he gets a little angry. But then the Lord is so loving that he doesn't just leave it. Okay, he's angry. Fine, I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I go pacify him? The Lord pacifies. So he comes and he says that you please cook for me, and that pacifies Jagdanand Pandit a lot. Okay, so this was the 12th chapter. Okay, so Jagdanand Pandit, how he breaks a pot of oil, and Lord Nityananda chastises Shivanand Singh. Okay, now let's read 121 to 125. Swati Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavana.
Anutana.
त्रयोदशे जगानन्द मथुर ऐला प्रभु देवदासीरा गीत सुनीला. Translation by Shloka KJ. The 13th chapter tells how Jagadananda Pandita went to Mathura and returned, how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chance heard a song sung by a Devadasi dancing girl. रघुनाथ भट्टाचार्य ताहानी मिलिना प्रभु तांत्रिक कृपा करे कटी आइला वृंदावना. Translation by Shloka After also in the 13th chapter is an account how Raghunath Bhatta met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who by his causeless mercy sent him to Vrindavan. चतुर्दशे दिव्योन्मद आरंभ वर्णना शरीर एता प्रभुरा मन घेरा वृंदावना. Translation by Prabhupada TJ. The 14th chapter describes the beginning of Lord's spiritual trance in which his body was at Jagannath Puri but his mind was in Vrindavan. तारे मध्ये प्रभुरा सिंहद्वार पार्थना. Asti Sandhi Tyaga Anubhavera Udgama. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Also in the chapter is a description of how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell down in front of the Simhadwara gate of the Jagannath temple. His bones separated at joints and how various transcendental symptoms awakened in him. Chatak Chataka Parvata Deki Prabhura Dhavana Tara Madhye Prabhura Kichu Pralapa Varnana. Translation by Srila Prabhupada for Ki Jai. Also in the chapter is a description of how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ran towards Chataka Parvata and spoke like a madman. Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you, Dandavat.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So now the 13th and the 14th chapter. So in the 13th chapter, we read again more pastimes with Jagadanand Pandit. And Jagadanand Pandit had made a pillow and quilt for the Lord. It was very, very comfortable because he wanted the Lord to sleep comfortably. But the Lord did not like to take any, comforts. He really was living a life of austerity. So he was uncomfortable sleeping like that. But Jagdanand Pandit thought that sleeping on the bark of plantain trees is not a very good way for Lord Chaitanya, so he made a pillow and a quilt. But Lord Chaitanya did not accept it. Then Swarup Damodar Goswami made another pillow and quilt from finely shredded palm plantain leaves. And after strongly objecting, then the Lord accepted them. Then, with the permission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jagdanand Pandit, he went to Vrindavan, where he discussed many devotional subjects with Sanatan Goswami. And there was also a discussion about Mukunda Saraswati's garment. He had given some garment, so there was a discussion between Jagdanand Pandit and Sanatan Goswami. And then, when Jagdanand returned to Jagannath Puri, he presented Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with some gifts from Sanatan Goswami, and the incident of the pillu fruit took place. So remember, anyone remembers what was this incident of the pillu fruit?
Mataji, it was bitter in taste, I think so.
Yeah, Mataji, there was a particular way to eat it, which some devotees did not know. So
They shouldn't eat the seeds, I think, Mataji.
yeah. If they were eating the sweet, then it was very hot. It was very spicy. So then there was a particular way of eating the pillu fruits. Yeah, so that was there in this chapter. And then also this mention of how Lord Chaitanya, once he was hearing this song that was in glorification of Lord Jagannath, but being sung by a Devdasi, and he did not think who is singing, so he was unaware of who was singing, but he ran towards her through thorny bushes. But because he was just attracted by the glorification of Lord Jagannath, but when Govinda informed the Lord that it was actually a woman singing, then he immediately stopped because he was a sannyasi. So for him to hear, a woman singing was not appropriate. And Lord Chaitanya was the perfect sannyasi. He would follow all the regulations very strictly. So then, when Govinda was able to stop the Lord, by this incident, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed everyone that sannyasis and Vaishnavas should not hear women singing. So that is the direction, and Lord Chaitanya was very strict about it. And then when Raghunath Bhatta Goswami left Varanasi on his way to Jagannath Puri after completing his education, he met Ramdas Vishwas Pandit. And Ramdas Vishwas Pandit was very proud of his education, but he was an impersonalist. So that's why Lord Chaitanya did not receive him well. And there is also in this chapter a summary of the life of Raghunath Das Goswami in this particular chapter. So this is how, sorry, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and this is the 13th chapter. Then there another very beautiful chapter is the 14th chapter, because that is Lord Chaitanya's feelings of separation. As we were reading towards the end of Antya Lila, the mood of separation and very concentrated feelings of separation that Lord Chaitanya was feelings. So the 14th chapter describes the beginning of the Lord's spiritual trance, in which his body was at Jagannath Puri, but his mind was in Vrindavan. So in this chapter, the 14th chapter, Mahaprabhu's feelings of separation from Krishna are resulting in highly elevated transcendental madness. That is the state Mahaprabhu is in. And once he was standing near the Garuda Stambha and praying to Lord Jagannath. And there comes a woman from Orissa. So, do you remember that pastime? That happens in the 14th chapter. What happens with that lady and Lord Chaitanya?
Yes, Mataji, I do remember something like she climbs on top of the Lord's shoulders
Yes,
anxiously to have darshan of Jagannath. And at
yes,
last, the Lord forgives her, I think so, Mataji.
yes,
No,
Mataji.
devotees around Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will go to move that lady, but Mahaprabhu says, no, don't move her. I mean, she took darshan standing on the shoulders of Mahaprabhu.
Correct. Yes.
This pillar
Very
even
nice.
today in Puri Jagannath.
Yes. Very nice, Mataji. Thank you. So, yeah, so this lady, she put her foot on the Lord's shoulder because she was in such great eagerness to get darshan of Lord Jagannath. And Govinda, who's assisting the Lord all the time, he chastised her for this. And you cannot climb on the Lord. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually praised her eagerness. Okay, so he did not, he did not take offense, but he was actually very happy to see her eagerness. And then when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the temple of Lord Jagannath, he was absorbed in ecstatic love and he saw only Krishna. So as soon as he perceived this woman, however, in his external consciousness, immediately returned and he saw Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra. So he was getting darshan of Krishna there. you know and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also saw Krishna in a dream that is also mentioned in this chapter, and he was overwhelmed with ecstatic love. And when he could no longer see Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu compared himself to a yogi and described how that yogi was seeing Vrindavan. So sometimes all the transcendental ecstatic symptoms were manifest in the Lord. And one night, Govinda and Sarup Damodar noticed that although the three doors to the Lord's room were closed and locked, the Lord was not present inside. And seeing this, Sarup Damodar and other devotees went outside and they saw the Lord lying unconscious by the gate known as Simhadwar. So the Jagannath Mandir has many gates, right? So in near Simhadwar, they found the Lord laying unconscious. And his body had become unusually long, and the joints of his bones were loose. So this description also we have read several times, right? That how his body would get changed, contorted, because he was whenever he went in deep ecstasy. So here in this case, his body became unusually long and the joints of his bones were loose. So the devotees gradually brought Lord Chaitanya to the normal senses by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and then they took him to his residence. And also in this chapter, the verse 125 mentions that once he mistook a sand dune to be Govardhan Hill, that is Chatak Parvat. So he saw that and he thought that this is Govardhan, and he started running. So he ran and then he became stunned, and then the 8 ecstatic transformations appeared in his body due to great love for Krishna. And at that time, the devotees chanted the Hare Krishna mantra to pacify the Lord. So that is the uh, 14th chapter. Okay. Yeah, so now let's read 126 onwards. Lalita Vinodini Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Krishna Mataji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. पंचदश परिच्छेदे उद्यान विलासे वृंदावन भ्रमे यहाँ करीला प्रवेशे. Translation by Jivan Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In the 15th chapter is a description of how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered a garden on the seashore and mistook it for Vrindavana. 127. तारा मध्ये प्रभुरा पंचेंद्रिय आकर्षण तारा मध्ये करीला रासे कृष्ण अन्वेषण. Translation by Divine Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Also in the chapter is a description of the attraction of Lord Chaitanya's 5 senses to Krishna and how he searched for Krishna in the Rasa dance. 128. Sodashe Kalidase Prabhu Kripa Karila Vaishnavo Chishtak Khaibara Aphala Dikhaila. Translation by Divine Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The 16th chapter tells how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his mercy to Kalidasa and thus demonstrated the result of eating the remnants of the food of Vaishnavas. 129. शिवानंदेरा बालके श्लोक करैला सिंहद्वारे द्वारी प्रभु रे कृष्णा दिखाइला. Translation by Divine Krishna Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It also describes how Shivananda's son composed a verse and how the doorkeeper of the Simhadwara showed Krishna to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Next 130. Mahaprasadera taha mahima varnila Krishnadaramritera pala shloka aswadila. Translation by Divine Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Also in the chapter, the glories of Mahaprasadam are explained, and a verse is tasted, describing the effect of nectar from the lips of Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah. So the 15th and 16th chapters. In the 15th chapter, that is entitled The Transcendental Madness of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after seeing the Upala Bhog ceremony of Lord Jagannath, I think that is one where on a particular stone, some special bhoga is offered to Lord Jagannath. So after that, after seeing that ceremony, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once more began to feel ecstatic emotions. And when he saw the garden on the beach by the sea, he again thought that he was in Vrindavan. And when he began to think of Krishna engaging in his different pastimes, transcendental emotions excited him again. So on the night of the Rasa dance, the gopis, bereaved by Krishna's absence, searched for Krishna from one forest to another, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu adopted the same transcendental thoughts as those of the gopis and was filled with ecstatic emotion. So just like the gopis were looking everywhere for Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also looking for Krishna. He was in the same consciousness. And then Swarup Damodar Goswami recited a verse from the Gita Govinda just suitable to the Lord's emotions. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then exhibited the ecstatic transformations known as Bhavodaya, Bhavasandhi, Bhavashabalya, and so on. The Lord experienced all 8 kinds of ecstatic transformations and he relished them very much. So that was chapter 15, where the transcendental madness of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was described. And chapter 16 is Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tastes nectar from the lips of Lord Sri Krishna. So this chapter had very, very beautiful verses describing the qualities of Krishna, the beauty of Krishna, and it's very artistically described, this chapter 16th. So in this chapter it is mentioned that when the Bengali devotees of the Lord returned to Jagannath Puri, a gentleman named Kalidas, who was an uncle of Raghunath Das Goswami, went with them to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And now Kalidas, there is a law that history or described that he had tasted the remnants of food of all the Vaishnavas in Bengal, even Chadu Thakur. So this, because he had tasted the remnants of food of all the Vaishnavas, he had accepted that, and so that because of that, he gets the shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri. So remnants of Vaishnavas is so it's so surcharged with devotion, and that is why we always should try to get that and serve them, get their mercy, because when one gets the mercy of Vaishnavas, then one gets very dear to Lord Krishna. Then there is also a description of Kavi Karnapura, who was only 7 years old, and he was initiated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu into the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. He later became the greatest poet amongst the Vaishnavacharyas. Then this chapter also talks about the time when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ate the remnants of food known as Vallabha Bhog. He described the glories of such remnants of the Lord's food and then fed all the devotees that prasadam. Thus they all tasted Adharamrita, the nectar from the lips of Lord Krishna. So in this chapter, we also read about the glories of prasadam. It was very nicely highlighted. Okay, so that is still 130. Yeah. So also in that chapter, the glories of Mahaprasadam are explained. Yeah. So now let's move forward to 131 to 135. Chandra Rekha Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranamam, text 131. सप्तदशे गभि मध्ये प्रभुरापतना कूर्माकार अनुभवेरा ताहानि उद्गमा. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. The 17th chapter recounts how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell among the cows and assumed the form of a tortoise as his ecstatic emotions awakened. I'll read the next one, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, till 135.
Okay. Text 132. कृष्णेरा शब्द गुणे प्रभुरा मन आकर्षिला का स्त्री अंगते श्लोकेरा अर्थ आवेशे करिला. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. That chapter also tells how the attributes of Krishna's sound attracted the mind of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who then described in ecstasy the meaning of the Kastri Angate verse. Text 133. Bhava Shabalye Puna Kaila Pralapana Karnamrita Shlokera Artha Kaila Vivarana. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. The 17th chapter also tells how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, due to the conjunction of various ecstatic emotions, again began speaking like a madman and described in detail the meaning of a verse from the Krishna Karanamrita. Text 134. अष्टादश परिच्छेदे समुद्रे पताना कृष्ण गोपी जल केली ताहान दर्शना. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. In the 18th chapter is an account of how the Lord fell into the ocean and in ecstasy saw in a dream the masteries of a water fight between Krishna and the gopis. Text 135. Tahani dekhila Krishnera Vanya Bhojana Jaliya Uthaila Prabhu Aila Swabhavana. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. In that dream, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Krishna's picnic in the forest. As Lord Chaitanya floated in the sea, a fisherman caught him, and then the Lord returned to his own residence. All this is recounted in the 18th chapter. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So, chapter 17 is talking about the bodily transformations of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the Lord was absorbed in transcendental ecstasy. And one night he went out without opening the doors to his room. And after crossing over three walls, he fell down among some cows belonging to the district of Telanga. There he remained unconscious, assuming the aspect of a tortoise. So that is what chapter 17 was about. And then to bring the Lord to consciousness, the devotees would always chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and then describe some verses, and recite some verses about Radharani, about the gopis, and that would bring the Lord to consciousness. And then again, he would get very ecstatic. So, in this way, the devotees would always keep describing the glories, and the Lord would go in that ecstatic mood. So that is how Lord Chaitanya, he was towards the end of his pastimes. And then chapter 18, that is where, the Lord has another very exciting pastime. where he was rescued from the sea. So one evening, one autumn evening, when the moon was when the moon was full, Lord Chaitanya walked along the seashore near the Aitota temple, and he was taking the Chatak Parvat as Govardhan. He takes the sea as Yamuna River. He thinks that this is the Yamuna River. He mistakes the sea for the Yamuna River, and he jumped into it, hoping to see the water pastimes Lord Krishna enjoyed with Srimati Radharani and the other gopis. So Lord Krishna would have very beautiful pastimes in the water with the gopis and Radharani. And Lord Chaitanya, in that mood, he jumped in the water, and he was washed in by the sea away to the Konark temple, it's a good distance away. And at that place, there was a fisherman who was thinking that the Lord's body was actually a big fish. And he caught him in his net and brought him ashore. Now, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was unconscious and his body had become unusually transformed. But as soon as the fisherman touched the Lord's body, he became mad in ecstatic love of Krishna. And the devotees, obviously, when the Lord was missing at night, they were very frantically looking for him everywhere. They went to the temple, they went to all the places, but they were not able to find the Lord. And some were even feeling a little saddened that, oh, has the Lord ended his pastimes already? But then they finally went near the sea. They were looking for the sea, and they found this fisherman who described that, oh, there is this Brahmana that I rescued, and after touching him, his body also, he becomes transformed because he gets ecstatic love for Krishna. And he thinks that actually I have been haunted by a ghost. He gets, his own madness frightens him, and he thinks that I have been overtaken by a ghost. And he was about to see a ghost charmer, and that's when he met Swarup Damodar Goswami and all the devotees on the beach, and they were actually looking for the Lord everywhere. And when after some inquiries, when they met this fisherman and made some inquiries, then Swarup Damodar Goswami could understand that the fisherman had actually caught Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his net. Since the fisherman was afraid of being haunted by a ghost, Swarup Damodar Goswami gave him a slap that, oh, I am an exorcist, I'm going to get this ghost out of you. He gives him a slap and chanted Hare Krishna, which immediately pacified the fisherman. And thereafter, when the devotees chanted the Hare Krishna Mahamantra loudly, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to his external consciousness. Then they brought him back to his residence. Okay? Yeah, so let's do 136 to 140. Padma Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, pranam. Text 136. Unavim se bite prabhura mukta sangarsana Krishna ravira spruti palapavarnana. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The 19th chapter is a description of how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rubbed his face against the walls and spoke like a madman because of separation from Krishna. Text 137. Vasanta Rajanite Pushpodhyane Viharna Krishnera Saurabhya Slokera Artha Vivarana. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That chapter also describes Krishna's wandering in a garden on a spring night, and it fully describes the meaning of a verse about the scent of Krishna's body. Text 138. Vimsa parichede nija shikshastaka padiya tarartha ashvadila prema vistahana. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The 20th chapter tells us how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited his own 8 stanzas of instruction and tested their meaning of ecstatic love. 139. Bhakti shikhai deyi shikshastaka kahila shei slokastakera artha puna ashvadila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu composed those 8 stanzas to instruct the devotees, but he also personally tested their meaning. Okay, it's 140.
Yes,
Mukhya,
Mataji. 140 now, yeah.
yeah. Mukhya Lila Artha Kari Dupathana Anuvad Haite Smare Grantha Vivarana. Translation by Prabhupada ki jai. I have thus repeated the principal pastimes and their meaning, for by such repetition one can remember the descriptions in the book. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So, in the 19th chapter is about the inconceivable behavior of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, in this chapter, we read that every year Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Jagdanand Pandit to visit his mother in Navdvip, and he would send some gifts of cloth and prasadam. After one such visit, Jagdanand Pandit returned to Puri with a sonnet that Advaita Acharya had written. And when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu read it, his ecstasy was so great that all the devotees feared that the Lord would very soon pass away. It was very extreme condition. The Lord's condition was so serious that at night he would bruise and bloody his face by rubbing it against the walls. Now, to stop this, Sarup Damodar asked Shankara Pandit to stay at night in the same room with the Lord, so that the Lord would not inflict this upon himself. And this chapter further describes how Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the Jagannath Vallabh garden during the full moon night of Vaishak, that's April to May, and expected various transcendental ecstasies. Overwhelmed with ecstatic love at suddenly seeing Lord Sri Krishna beneath an Ashoka tree, he exhibited various symptoms of spiritual madness. Okay, so he was overwhelmed with ecstatic love, and he under an Ashoka tree he was able to see Krishna. So Mahaprabhu's love is getting more and more concentrated. His remembrance of Lord Krishna is getting more and more concentrated. And then obviously the 20th chapter, this chapter where we are reading about the Shikshashtakam verses. So this section is like summary of everything, and also this has those 8 beautiful verses which Lord Chaitanya has given as teachings, and these were given in different places in the Chaitanya Charitamrita at different times in different contexts, but they have all been brought together as chapter 20, the Shikshashtaka prayers. Okay, so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would pass his nights tasting the meaning of the Shikshashtaka prayers in the company of Sarup Damodar Goswami and Ramanand Rai. So it's not like Mahaprabhu just gave this teaching and that's what everyone else to follow, and I'm not going to actually follow it. Lord Chaitanya was practically following everything, and that's why these 8 verses are so very powerful, because if we read them, there is so much in each verse. It is condensed. We just need to layer it out and understand its meaning. And also sometimes he recited verses from Jayadev Goswami's Gita Govinda, from Srimad Bhagavatam, from Sri Ramanand Rai's that Jagannath Vallabha Natak, or from Sri Bilva Mangal Thakur's Krishna Karnamrit. In this way, he became absorbed in ecstatic emotions. And for the 12 years Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived at Jagannath Puri, he relished the taste of reciting such transcendental verses. And although the Lord was present in this mortal world for 48 years, after hinting about the Lord's disappearance, the author of the Chaitanya Charitamrita gives a short description of the entire Antya Lila and thus ends this book. So that's what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written in his Amrit Pravaha Bhashya, that in the last chapter, in this chapter 20, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is, he's hinting at the closure of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, and he summarizes the whole, all the different chapters of Antya Lila. And in this way, he's going to close that. But we still have some verses to be read. But in verse 140, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is writing that I have thus repeated the principal pastimes and their meaning, for by such repetition, one can remember the descriptions in the book. So it was so nice that we were all able to go through these verses and actually, again, remember all those wonderful pastimes. Okay. So few more verses remaining that will be taken tomorrow. We'll end
Hare
today.
Krishna. Mataji,
Yes,
one thing I
Mataji.
still can't understand. Why
Mhm.
did he rub his nose against the wall?
Mataji, those are all, his ecstatic symptoms. There is, I mean, why did he jump in in the sea, thinking that it is Yamuna,
No,
and
that's all okay. That's
physically
all
he
okay,
is cut.
Mataji.
Yes,
But
Mataji.
Ravindra knows
Physically
the
he
use
is
of
cut
what?
from his. Yeah, that's what Mataji. He does not have external consciousness of his body.
Okay, okay.
So he's not feeling any sensation in his body. He's because his mind is totally in that trance. So when he was in the sea also, he was not really feeling that he's floating, right? Or when he fell over the cows, he was not feeling that pain. So in the same way, that's my understanding, that he was not having any external consciousness, any feeling. It was all total absorption into Krishna. So on a bodily level, he was not feeling all these things. Okay.
So very deep, Mataji.
Very, very deep. Yes, Mataji. It gets more and more condensed as we reached the end of chapter 20 of the Antya Lila, right?
Yes, Mataji, yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So we are going to complete tomorrow, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Tomorrow it will be completed, and then maybe next week I asked Chandra Gopinath Prabhu that next week, if you all agree, we can have like a summary of from the beginning, what we have read.
Yes,
And
Mataji.
Yes,
Hare,
Mataji.
Hare Krishna
Yes,
Mataji.
Like
Mataji.
a
We
revision,
really
Mataji.
want it.
yeah,
We
okay.
badly wanted to read
Yeah,
again
I
from.
think we'll do that.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Well, tomorrow is the concluding day. I do
Yes,
agree,
Prabhu.
Mataji.
Mhm.
Tomorrow, after completion of this rest of the verses, you
Mhm.
please unfold the 8 verses that what is explained in Shikshashtaka.
Okay, Shikshashtakam. Okay,
As
I'll.
because they were all the daily we have
Mhm.
to make in practice and daily life. So
Okay.
if it is better to hear at your end. It will help
Mhm.
us, Mataji, please.
Sure, sure, Prabhu. Tomorrow, Shashimukhi Mataji will be taking the class, so I'll
Not,
request.
no,
Yeah.
Mataji, not like that. If you take, then it will help us. You don't think I am not differentiating it. Thing
Yeah,
is,
yeah, Prabhu. We'll take that. We'll take that when we are doing the summary next week. Then we'll
okay,
take
okay, okay. It is
Shikshashtakam.
all right. Okay, Mataji. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
tomorrow Mataji can explain, and then we'll start summarizing from next week onwards. Then maybe, we'll in December, many devotees will be busy with marathon also, so maybe we can take a break for some time, and then we'll see what we can start again. We are still discussing that with Prabhu, so nothing is finalized as yet. Okay, so but
What
Okay,
at
about the
least
next one,
let's do
Mataji?
the
The
summary.
Bhagavata? Chaitanya
What, Mataji?
Bhagavata or whatever it is?
Yeah, I am asking Prabhu, Mataji. I'm asking Prabhu what we can take. So
Yes.
let's see what is decided upon.
You can suggest
Because
also, Mataji.
yes, Mataji, we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
confirm that. But at
Yeah.
least next week, let's all have a summary so we know from the Madhya Lila, Antya Lila, Madhya Lila, and then
Yes, Mataji.
Adi
Yeah.
Lila. Let's just we'll all uh, read the summaries so we know, right, chapter wise what was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That'll be a good
Hare
revision
Krishna.
also.
Yeah, we'll revise. Good. Be good to revise. So we'll do that.
Yes. Okay,
Okay,
thank you,
and then
Mataji.
like Prabhu said that Shikshashtakam, yes, 8 verses we should study it deeply. So we'll do
Yeah.
that
Yes,
for
Mataji.
sure.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you all.
Hare
Thank you so much.
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. You want to
Hare
say
Krishna
something?
Mataji. Pranams, Mataji.
As I won't be able to attend tomorrow due to a temple seva, I wish to thank all the Matajis who guided us. Mataji, we are really grateful for the
So, Mataji,
wonderful.
you can hear the YouTube. You can just go to ICF channel, and because the classes are all live, so you can hear it on YouTube later.
Okay, Mataji, I'll do that.
Tomorrow's
Thank you
class.
so much.
Yeah. Thank you all. Panchakalpatrubhyascha
Kripa
kripasindu
sindubheva cha
पतितानां
patitanam
पावनेभ्यो
pavanebhyo
वैष्णवेभ्यो
vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
अनंत
Anantakota
कोटि
Vaishnava
वैष्णव
Vrinda
की
ki
जय
jai. Srila
चैतन्य
Prabhupada ki
चरितामृत
jai.
की जय श्री
Ki jai.
कृष्ण कविराज गोस्वामी की जय श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय श्री
Goswami
प्रभुपाद
ki
की जय
jai. Shri
Hare
Chaitanya
हरे
Krishna.
Prabhu
कृष्ण
ki jai.
थैंक यू ऑल
Hare
धन्यवाद
Krishna
धन्यवाद
Mataji.
Thank you,
Dandavat
Mataji.
pranamam. Thank you.
Thank